Over the years, the Crota's End raid has been called many things. Some call it a strike, others like calling it a raid, some might even refer to it as a raid lair. But after the release of dungeons in Destiny 2, the Shattered Throne, and if you want to count it, the Whisper mission, I see Crota's End as kind of the original dungeon. A dungeon in Destiny terms has a different identity rather than a raid or a raid lair, for a few different reasons. They usually have mechanics that are mid-level difficulty, nothing as complex as a full-fledged raid, say like Last Wish or King's Fall, but they also still demand enough of your attention and skill to avoid being an activity where you just fall into autopilot mode and don't have to focus. This type of content with mid-level mechanics has what's in my opinion a very important place in Destiny because it actually serves both types of people who play the game. Dungeons like Shattered Throne can be completed by a group, but they can also appeal to solo players who want a very difficult challenge to master. Unlike raids, soloing a dungeon is an actual realistic goal for a solo player. It can take quite a bit of practice, but that practice is what makes you a better player. And the only thing better than getting the best loot in the game is the accomplishment of beating a very hard piece of content, especially by yourself. If we take a look at Shattered Throne, we can see a few different mechanics in play. The first is traversing the landscape, parkour if you will. The second is killing mini-bosses to reveal symbols and unlocking the way out of the maze-like encounter. The third is a debuff that slows down your character as you try to navigate through a bunch of thrall. Sound familiar? But it's not until we reach Vorgeth where the first real difficult mechanic comes into play. You'll need to kill 4 wizards in order to stack your Petitioner's Burden buff to max strength. Once you kill a wizard, you have a short period of time to pick up that buff, and upon doing so, you must kill the next wizard and pick up the next buff within 40 seconds, or you wipe. Stacking all 4 allows you to dunk in the center of the room and take down the boss's shield, allowing you to do damage. If you've got a team, you can kill the wizards pretty much immediately, and quickly make your way around the room killing each one alongside the group of taken enemies. If you're a solo player though, the strategy changes drastically, and you'll find yourself being a lot more cautious, using cover a lot more, and taking down as many enemies as you can, since you do have as much time as you need before defeating the first wizard. The great thing about this mechanic is it offers a different experience for a team and for a solo player, and the encounter can be beaten by both. It's the same with the final boss of the Shattered Throne, Duel Inkaru. If you spend some time learning the encounter and gear up accordingly, the boss can be killed solo just as quickly as if you're with a full team. This is because the mid-tier difficulty of the mechanics was designed for a fire team of 3, and 3 players is far closer to 1 than 6 is. So it makes sense that the dungeons are more easily soloable, right? So when I went back to play Crota's End this past weekend, I realized just how similar the experience was to the dungeons of Destiny 2. With the exception of the bridge section where you have to cheese it, every other encounter in Crota's End is entirely possible to beat legitimately by yourself. The Lamp Maze, the Shrieker Hallway if you want to count that, the Death Singer, and Crota. And the best part of Crota's End is these encounters can take wildly different amounts of time depending on your skill level. You may end up failing several times to kill the gatekeepers on the bridge section and have to self-res many times. You may have to take multiple damage phases on Crota because he cucked you out of a 1 phase. Or if you've honed your skills and mastered the activity, you'll make it through each section flawlessly and on your first go. The same goes for Shattered Throne. Even though it's endgame content, dungeons are far more forgiving than raids when it comes to messing up. And this is another thing that gives them their own identity. Dungeons are also known for their scale compared to other activities. They're a lot closer to raids in this regard, but they're also known for having a very dark, mysterious, ancient, and alien atmosphere that makes you feel incredibly insignificant and lonely. And while Crota's End may be a 6-player activity, to me it fits perfectly with everything that defines a Destiny dungeon. It offers the challenge you want from content without requiring you to form a group. It offers the promise that the more you play, the better you'll get at each encounter because of the high skill ceiling. And it also offers what feels like the premier Destiny experience, a huge fantastical environment full of mystery, and beautiful frightening landscapes and structures with multiple bosses, multiple encounters, and challenging mechanics, and most of all, loot. Sadly, the Shattered Throne launched with practically no rewards other than powerful items that could be already obtained from other activities, a cosmetic ship with the worst RNG in the world, and an emblem that was supposed to track final boss kills but was bugged for 6 months. If the Shattered Throne dungeon had a unique Taken or boss-themed armor set for each class, and at least a few unique weapons, well, I think the activity would have been perfect. Being able to look at someone and know what they went through to get that gear is an important part of these games. Besides the emblem, I have nothing to show off from my clears of the throne. But despite the lack of rewards and zero score triumphs offered by the latest installment, I still think dungeons should become a focus of future content development. This isn't to say they should just scrap raids altogether. No, I think raids are still very important. But instead of getting 1 raid and 2 raid layers in the first year, and then 3 more raids in the second year, I would actually much rather see a healthy mixture of raids and dungeons. I think Bungie should definitely make more dungeons for Destiny 2, but my real hope is that if we do see a Destiny 3, that it launches with at least one of these dungeons right out of the gate. It's clear the Shattered Throne was one of the most highly, if not the most highly praised and well-received piece of content this series has ever had, and it's no doubt Bungie has considered making more. I just wanted to stress how important it is to the game, and even as a solo player myself, how meaningful the content is. If by some miracle we get a Forsaken-sized or at least Rise of Iron-sized DLC this fall, it totally has to have a dungeon, with its pinnacle reward being Bad Juju. No question about it, Bad Juju is literally the only exotic I'd pay to return. If you like this video, please share it around and let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. Also, what kind of dungeon would you love to see in the future? I was just thinking how cool it would be to have a Fallen/Hive themed dungeon with a Mindbender as a boss. That would be so sweet. Anyway, thank you so much for watching everyone, and have a fantastic day.